The next thing we're going to talk about is our pillars. The reason we call them pillars, let me just rewind on how we ended up getting to this. I already talked to you about how Chris and I really felt like our groups were getting stale. We were away at a strategy retreat, and he asked the question, he said, if you could have groups do, what would you want groups to do over the course of a month? And the things we ended up narrowing it down to is that we wanted them to connect with one another over the course of a month. We wanted them to share who they were and find an outlet to express how they're feeling to God, whether that's adoration or whether that's through all the other different ways. We never wanted to give up our discussion questions that go along with it. And then the last one is personal growth, right? We had already had the experience plan at the time, and we were looking for that as well to go with this. I think one of the things that's really important that I actually skipped over, but let me go back to this as well. So when we first started, some of you may be wondering, you have never heard why we even call them dinner groups. At this point, by the way, I pitch every year that, I think I'm, let's just call them groups kind of thing. And they're like, no, we're sticking with it. So let me give you the origin story of dinner groups. It was 2008. We were a church plant. One thing that we always wanted was that, we wanted to make sure that what people were learning on Sunday was being applied in their lives, right? That it was making a difference inside that. And not just with Sunday, but just anything in their life, that if they're opening scripture, that it's making a difference. And a lot of this comes from a verse in James. So in James 1:22, it says, don't merely listen to the word and so deceive yourselves. Do what it says. So the do what it says is really important here. This is us activating our faith, right? Putting into practice what it means. Anyone who listens to the word but does not do what it says is like someone who looks at his face in a mirror and then afterward looks at himself, goes away, and immediately forgets what he looks like. So again, you can really see how this plays out in a church, right? You hear a message and you're like, that was nice, and then on with my week, right? Or in my Bible on a Wednesday morning, I read it and it's, I guess maybe I'll think about that today, and then not really applying it and giving us a chance to learn. But whoever looks intently into the perfect law and whoever looks intently into the perfect law that gives freedom and continues in it, not forgetting what they have heard, but doing it, they will be blessed in what they do. And this is the verse of our groups. Our groups are about application, right? The biggest thing our groups are about is people applying and activating their faith inside of that. So anyways, we wanted to have small groups to help. I think we thought small groups were a great way for people to activate their faith, find a place to find support and encouragement inside of that. And so we would ask people all the time, do you want to get together this week and we'll continue Sunday's conversation? And I'd be like, I don't have time. You guys heard my story with JP Morgan earlier. Back then I was working 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. at night kind of thing. When I said I didn't have the time, it was because we were just working the whole time. But at the same time, when you're growing a church, one of the other things you're doing is, and still to this day, is trying to get to know people. And so it was, hey, do you want to get together over coffee? Or hey, back then it was, hey, do you want to get to go over dinner? Love to share my story with you and get to know yours as well. And people would tell us yes to that all the time. And so I think it was either Anna or Chris. We'll give credit to Anna because she's cooler, right? But they suggested, hey, what if we just say, let's continue Sunday's conversation over dinner. And that's where dinner groups were born. Because as soon as we were like, hey, let's get together over dinner, people were saying yes. And the thing that we ended up learning, we didn't learn this at the time. It took us a couple years into this. What we ended up learning is that's how our culture meets, right? We were meeting over meals. That's where business happens. That's where all these kind of things happen. Over the years, that has shifted. It then became people were in different stages of life. So it was hey, a morning group would be more convenient for me. All these other kind of times, those kind of things. So that's where that kind of shifted inside of that. So if you're ever wondering, hey, why am I leading a dinner group when I meet at 6 a.m.? Like, why? What is that about? You can now share this story with them of where this came from when they're in a dinner group that meets at 6 a.m. The other thing, I'll save it for another time. Let me go back. If I get on tangents too much, we're in trouble, guys. So I will curve that out. All right, so let's talk about our pillars. So we talked about those 4 things that we're looking to happen. So here's our 4 pillars. We want a night. Sorry, there's going to say a bunch of nights. So if you're a morning group, I'm going to apologize in advance. You can change these to connection days inside of this. So we have connecting night, communion, common growth, and personal growth. I'm going to dive into each one of these. So connecting. So this is going to help with the purpose of connection or fellowship, and it's also going to help with share or evangelism, right? So this is also going to be a place where that intimacy inclusion is both going to get worked inside of this. And this year, one of the things that Christian's going to share is Christian's in charge of all of our connection events. We think that we have a much better system now to be able to have you guys sponsor a connection event. So our connection events, if you haven't heard of them, those are gatherings that we do. Those originally, I realize some of you are so new that you don't know this, but connection events were originally always hosted by our dinner groups. Like they were the ones that put all of the connection events on. One of the things we started to see after a while, though, is that we had grown to a point as our church where we could then only do public venues, because way back in the day, it's like, hey, we're going to have a game night at Tiffany's house. And then right now, Tiffany does not want to invite 1,200 people to come to her house. Just wasn't safe, right? Then we had to put Tiffany's address out there. So we started doing public things. The other thing we noticed is that every leader has a different gift. And not every leader is great at that hosting kind of gift of helping people get connected. And the other thing is that, like, usually the group leader only knows their own circle in a sense. But then we noticed that some people have the gifts in this. So like Christian and myself and a few others over the years, they're pretty much all in this photo, which is like Michael and Rachel, Kari, were people who like really helped get this off the ground at the sense was that, like, all right, we're going to send a host to these events, and they'll be the people serving the event in a sense. But now we really want to bring groups back into this as a tool for you guys to use to help people connect the unconnected and help your members take that step. I think it's crucial for them to be able to have opportunities for them to invite others to be a part of this inside of there. So Christian will have that link. I actually may need to put it over lunch. I don't think I put the QR code in here. But he has a sign-up sheet where you guys can pick one. I would really love if you guys all selected one today inside of that. There's also, we tried to get a different variety of events in there as well. So like, I know some of our groups that have a lot of moms in that. Mom Who Brunch is back, and a few other like playground kind of things, which will be really awesome for you guys to sponsor. There's ladies' nights and men's nights and all those other kind of things inside there. But these are really like, so again, what are we using this pillar for? This pillar is to help us with those purposes, right? And building that in. I would love to see this happen once a month. Not a connection event, but where you're just intentionally allowing your group to connect with one another and then also connect outside if possible. One of the other things in here is our us nights. So us nights these are nights where it's just about your group. And so maybe you get together and you do board games together or do the events that we can't do as a church. So I remember when we first named us nights, Urban Coal House had just opened. And we had so many people saying, hey, can we do an event at Urban Coal House? Again, like saying like 1,200 people to Urban Coal House is not a smart idea. But especially when it's brand new and it's packed and you need reservations, all those kind of things. But for you guys, it's a little bit more manageable. You have 12 people in your group, and it's not hard to call ahead and say, hey, can I get a table for this? Those kind of things. but letting them use that as an opportunity to invite others to be a part of that, the person that they have been praying for on their mind inside of that. Next one is communion. You might be wondering, Nick, why are you using the word communion? The word communion means the act of sharing is what this stands for. And so these are all nights where we are going to share about ourselves or share our experiences, share where we're at, all those kind of things. You might have experienced this most inside of your own group with encouragement nights. If you haven't done an encouragement night with your group, I highly encourage you to do that. I am blown away by God every time I do that. What encouragement night is 3 simple questions. It is, what is it that you value and appreciate about others? You don't have to write this down. I have this elsewhere. I can send this to you. Sorry. What do you value and appreciate about those around you? How have you witnessed them grow since the last time you did this or when you started a group? So how have you witnessed them grow in the past year? And then the last question being, what are the strengths in them? And what's really cool about this night is getting to hear how people share. I've had some groups that do a really cool thing where they've taken a group photo in advance and then they brought the mats for everyone and then people were able to write out their encouragement to each other. And so they had their group and the words that go along with it, which was really awesome. But the reason if you don't want to do encouragement night, the reason these 3 questions are awesome is because we do a really poor job in our culture of finding a place where we tell others how we value and appreciate them. I think we all know it. We all think about it. But we finally have a venue and a place to be able to do that. The next one is, how have you witnessed them grow? We're in this every single day, right? We don't see our growth as much as others can see it in ourselves. And I think sometimes, too, it's helpful to get people to, you're climbing this mountain, but to be able to turn around and see the growth and progress that you've made is really encouraging to that person. And then the last one is, we think all of our strengths come natural to everyone else. But when someone hears, oh man, you're really good at connecting with people quickly, or man, you have a way of, giving great advice, or you make people feel so welcome when they come in. You know what ends up happening when you tell them about their strengths? They end up using it more, right? They end up recognizing, oh, this is one of those things that make it special. So my only tip with encouragement nights is just make sure what you tell them is truthful. It only will hurt them if you don't in that section. The other thing is, as a safety net, make sure something you can say about everyone. What's cool in that night is people will check off your list for you, right? Which is really awesome, but you're always going to have someone that might be the extra grace required person. I guarantee you there is something that you can share about them. It may just even be, hey, you are so consistent in group. You are here every single week, and it's so comfortable knowing that every time I come, I know that you're going to be here, and that provides me with such relief. Things like that. If you're still stuck, come find me. But it's been amazing how God can work on your heart through that one as well. I remember we had a guy in our group that he was a lot. And I remember encouragement night was where God had a breakthrough with me and him at just recognizing, oh, he's just so hungry to share and give his experiences and all these kind of things, and just valuing that in that regard. Next one is stories. Obviously, if you have a brand new group, stories is awesome. But you also may be wondering, hey, I've already heard everyone's stories. We've been in group for a while. I want to encourage you to start trying to do devotionals. If you don't know what devotionals are, this is where you have people bring a piece of scripture for them to share with others and what they've learned about it. That might sound super intimidating, right? Hey, can you come give a 5-minute sermon to our group? Here's the thing where you can disguise this, or this is how I've disguised this. With my guys, once we've all heard our stories, we move into devotionals. The best one I've ever done is bring to group a passage or a story that has gotten you through a hard time in your life. And they come in, they share that challenging time in their life, and they're like, hey, I was going through this. I found this scripture. I read it every single day to remind me to stay on my feet, to do these kind of things. Like, you can't imagine how cool it is seeing 12 guys like open up and turn into these little tiny preachers that you didn't realize were in them, in a sense, because God's working on all our lives. I think the other thing that's amazing about those stories is that I don't know what it is about testimonies, but we always stop at when we found Christ. But I feel like we talked about those pivotal circumstances. So much of that growth, though, comes after the baptism, right? After the sanctification, in a sense. So anytime you get an opportunity to hear more of those stories, it's really awesome and builds community. A night of extended prayer, obviously every group has prayer part of it, or we do prayer requests, but like maybe you're just going to take 15 minutes that night and pray for your city, pray for the world, pray for everything. Maybe you're going to go through all the outstanding prayer requests, right? It's been a while. Let's go through this. Or you reach out to us and we send you the list of all the prayer requests that have come in for the past week inside of that. I'll tell you, those are all anonymous, by the way, as well. So if you're like, oh, like people see those, like just know we clean them up inside there. The next one is communion. I want to apologize. I was going to have communion sets available. But again, if you want to reach out, you need communion. I have cups and little packets ready to go. Reach out to me. They're the same little rip and tear ones that go with that. Also, and then the last one is worship. What's really cool about this is that like worship can look in a variety of different ways. You may, if you have a worship leader in your group, take advantage of that. I know it's going to feel awkward for the first 30 seconds. It is really cool once that goes away. I think Brian's old group used to like really have some good jam sessions out there. At the lawn, too. That was the cool thing with that. So don't be afraid to do that. If you don't have someone and you're not comfortable, YouTube has so many lyric videos out there that you could use in place of that. Worship could also be not just singing. It could be a time where you guys all journal together. And then if people feel comfortable sharing what they, maybe you're just going to do gratitude for 5 minutes. What are the things you're thankful for today? And then be able to share those things. So these are all different kind of communion things inside of this. You guys can see how, like, the discussion questions aren't going to get to this depth all the time, right? And this is going to bring in some new freshness inside of this. I think what's clearly this is the worship side of that. This is also going to be leaning into the, this is where that content word falls apart. It used to be discipleship, but again, like this is where that like growing spiritually comes in there inside of that. Next one is common growth. This is the one you guys are most familiar with. This is your safety net, which is the weekly questions. They're there for you every single week. We also have approved books. I gave a few suggestions. Purpose-Driven Life is amazing. You have a bunch of new believers in your group. Highly recommend Purpose-Driven Life. We even have a series that goes along with it. We did that back in 2019 as well. And then all of our equip studies are also available. So Anna's really trying to work on a system where if you guys would like to do one of the equip studies, but Sunday doesn't work for your group, let us know, because a lot of that content is a lot like FPU in that it's facilitated. There's a kind of content that goes along with it. So if you want to do one of the Bible studies that already exists, or you want to do, Anna, what was the one? Empower? You really were like would be awesome inside of a group. Yeah. Yep, all those kinds. So Empower is a really great one that goes with it. And then the last one is Bible studies. I already talked about it. I'm going to address this question now. One of the things you might be doing is, wait, so we're only going to do this once a month? I think what's interesting, if you go back and look at some of these other things, especially in here, a lot of these are like 15 to 30 minutes, but like whatever time's left, then go to the discussion questions inside of there. The other thing I'll say about discussion questions is first question in my discussion questions is always a question that everyone can participate in. It's always the warm-up question to go back before. I'm just trying to get everyone engaged in this conversation. And the last question is always the application one. So it's always has to do with what's going to change because of what we just heard, right? Or how do we need support in order to make this change? These questions, I write them with my group in my mind. I obviously try to, with the questions, one of the other tips or when I talk to other churches about how we do discussion questions, I want to try to engage the existing or the kind of more mature believers as much as possible. A lot of times, they may have been through our sermon series before, but I kind of want to engage, hey, where were you the last time you were here? So that when they can share their experiences of where they've been before, it keeps them really involved in the group, and it keeps it fresh for them. And then it also is a great reminder in their own spiritual walk of how they've grown. Because we really want to get people from being fed, right? So they're just there by themselves, to feeding themselves, to then feeding others. And this is a great way where we see this play out of, all right, when I was first coming, I had learned this for the first time. This is where I was in my life. But then I started to put it into place, and I was doing this. And now, like, you hear them inside a group sharing, man, this spiritual practice has made such a difference in my life. I now have a dedicated space, whatever it may be. Fits in really though. So anyways, all that to say, don't be afraid. Change up the questions to fit what is appropriate inside of your group, especially in a world of AI. If you want to work with me, like, you could also describe what your group is and what their kind of struggles are, or who's in the makeup of the group, and I bet you we can get it to adapt those questions on your behalf if you're like, I'm never going to change those questions kind of thing. But you're interested in doing that or trying that out with me, let me know. What was the last thing I was going to say with that? Oh, and then the other discussion question thing is, if it's engaging and it's leading to change, keep going with it. Don't think that you need to get through every single question. Obviously, I would love for you to get to that application question, but if you're early on, it's engaging, they're going along with it, don't force them to change the subject if it's not needed. And the last one is personal growth. One of the things I left out, common growth. So obviously we talk in series. These are things we all have in common, where it's one area we're all taking the same step together. So we may be in a different stage in life spiritually, but it's nice that we can all take a step in the same arena, in a sense, inside that. So where personal growth comes in differently is that this is where we're encouraging our own individual journeys, right? And those things that we need to earn inside of that. I left my growth planner downstairs, but we have an amazing resource that got made this past year that has put all of this into one book. It is called the Growth Planner. You can get it from our merch store inside of our app. Excuse me. I believe it's in our app, and then equip, and then engage. Oh yeah, engage. Sorry, wrong E word. Engage button. When you also press the engage button, you'll see the equip stuff, but you'll also see our merch, and that's there. I believe it's $15, but it is well worth it. I've already had some groups reach out about how they can get it for their whole group, but if that's not an option, I guess I should explain a little bit of this. So the first one is our experience plan. Our experience plan is like our bread and butter when it comes to this. This is a list of spiritual habits. We ask people to select 3 of those habits that they're going to work on over the next month. So when you get together, like maybe you're going to get together and just introduce it to them. Like, hey, here's the experience plan. What I would really love for us to do is let's take 5-10 minutes to fill this out, or maybe it's, hey, come back next week with how you want to grow over the next month, what you want to try out. And then review it on a monthly basis, I think, is really important. The thing I've learned with doing experience plan inside my group is you do it the first time, you introduce it, and when you go to review it, you're going to have 2 or 3 out of your 15 or 12 that did it. Those 3 people are going to be on fire. And what's really cool is they ignite the other people, because they're just like, oh my gosh, like I want what Todd has. kind of thing. And where's it going with this? Todd. Oh, and then that kind of spurs that growth. But what's really good too is that, like, what you're going to find out with the people who are not those three people is that more often than not, they set goals that were way too high. So they're like, I'm going to spend an hour with God every morning. No, you're not. Let's start with 10 minutes. Let's start with 15. Let's grow to the hour in a sense. All those things that you've probably learned in another area of your life, whether it's the gym or whether it's some other habit that you build, like same thing. Build slowly. So if someone wants to make the couch to 5K of spending time with God, that would be awesome. Oh, actually, it does exist. If you ever have the Pause app, the Pause app used to have, you used to have to do 1 minute for 5 days straight before it would unlock 3 minutes. And then you had to, every 5 days of consistency, it would open up another tier for you. And so the Pause app is one that you could do that as well with. Put off, put on is about identifying truth and lies in your life. This has been really great in my own life. This is one I wish I would bring into group more. This is really good when you're meeting kind of one-on-one with people sometimes too. Just helping them identify, okay, what is that we're looking to put off this month, and what are we going to replace it with in that sense. Yeah, next one is our rhythms. Again, that's also in our app if you'd like some guided help inside that. And then the last one is your circles. So this is that one of the things that's really important as a group leader is you want to make sure people have their people, in a sense. So this is the Paul, Barnabas, and Timothy. So someone who's pouring into you, someone who's alongside this journey with you, and someone that you're investing in. And so just important to have those kind of key relationships in their life inside of that. Cool. So with those four, you're going to start seeing this literally on Monday, but we're going to try something this fall. So one of the things that we observed is all of our new groups used to have this 10-week curriculum where it introduced all these pillars to the group itself. It was a way for us to teach some of the content from creating community into our groups. And one of the things that we observed is those 10-week groups, they did really great. They had the 10 weeks. And then when it would end, they would go back to that same habit as well. I'm just going to do discussion questions every single week. I have laid out what I think would be a great kind of plan for the next 13 weeks. And then I'm working on what it's going to look like in the following year. But this is optional. But if you want additional activities inside of your group, I'm going to each week be providing one blueprint, which is one of these pillars. So here's what will give you an idea of what it looks like. So this is what we recommend for the new groups. So I'm going to give everyone those first 10 weeks that our 10-week groups go through. If you want to start fresh and start with it, this is a great way to do it. So the first week is going to be connecting, and we're going to use the story cards. So same exercise that you just did, except there won't be a speaker to come and cut you guys off. You'll be able to do it the whole time. The next one is personal, which is the experience plan. You heard me talk about introducing it and getting it started in a sense. This is going to take 15 minutes. So then you're going to be able to do discussion questions after that, right? To be able to fit in with the remaining time. Third week is going to be discussion questions. This might also be where you're going to introduce maybe the ground rules for group, maybe also what we're looking for inside of these conversations that go along with it. Fourth week would be communion. I love when our new groups start with stories, and I think one thing that we know, though, with the stories one is that trying to hear everyone's story in one night can be very challenging. So just be conscious of that. Obviously, you should go first, but also know if you want everyone to share their full story, then you should share your full story. If you want everyone to give the 5-minute version, make sure that yours is also the 5-minute version. So just be conscious of those kind of things in there. And then again, coming back to the experience plan, right? So a month has gone by. I'm going to check with my experience plan. That's the check-in. That's the night where it's going to be like, all right, what adjustments do we need to make? What are the kind of challenges inside that? 6 week, like doing communion together. Inside that. 7th week is us night. So this is a way that you guys can have fun with each other. Maybe this is a game night. Maybe it's going out to eat. Maybe it is, what are some other fun things? I'm blanking right now, but there's tons. 8, back to just a night of discussion questions, checking back in on experience plan, and then ending the kind of quarter. This is going to end up being the week before Thanksgiving. So what an incredible time to do encouragement night of how we're thankful for the people that we're with inside that. Obviously, like this does not need to be as structured as it is. One of the other things that's really nice about all these different activities is we're working on giving you a location where all these activities are going to live, like in a wiki in a sense, or a web page of all these activities, so you can grab them anytime. But we're just going to introduce them on a weekly basis for you guys. So that's an option for you inside that. So let's say that you are an existing group. Boy, is this going to be little. This is going to show you how you can do more than one pillar in a night, I think is a big thing. So as you look at it on your own sheet, you can see how they're pulling off 2 things on some nights. But just know that like the discussion questions is a great thing to fall back on.